our next panel talk is pretty awesome. We're going to be joined. It's going to be about hemp. Now that we've done a couple of different hemp panel talks already with Transformers Foundation, and instead of doing one about the history of hemp, we thought you could, but the students here can definitely log on to Transformers Foundation website, and they can actually watch some of those history talks. So I thought it'd be more official to get some of our friends here who are all using hemp, and to ask them some really interesting questions of the sort of questions. So thank you, Ali, Rashid from NDL, and Zaki as well from CBL. Thank you so much for joining. I'm going to go straight into the questions. I've got about 7 or 8. Let's see if we can get through them all. In last year in September, the Pakistani government approved control hemp farming. Pakistan being one of the world leaders of denim production and home textiles. Is this a turning point and a shift away from cotton? And I'm going to go straight here to Zaki first.
Thank you, Mohsin. First of all, what a fantastic show. It's amazing. We finally have an opportunity in Pakistan to get some of these experts, especially related to denim and textiles here. So kudos to you and everybody on the team, especially the Transformers Foundation. I think it's an acknowledgement. It's a point where there is still a lot of work that needs to be done, especially when it comes to hemp, especially from the brand side as well. I think there is adoption has been relatively slow when we speak about hemp. So I would assume the sooner we get some key adoptions, especially in core lines from some of the more, let's say, visible brands out there, we could see a lot more mainstream adoption taking place on hemp. And that, I believe, will spur the activity. When it comes to, cotton, we have BCI, we have, like Andrew explained, so many organizations, riding the wave or trying to promote cotton. At the moment, we don't have a single organization when it comes to hemp, so everybody is plowing the field on their own. And there's a lot more mapping that needs to be done, especially when it comes to blends and blending hemp. The best experience CBL has had, and then I'll let you, because I don't want to take away most of the minutes here, but has been with Tencel. So I think that turnaround time is still awaited, where the industry starts to recognize that hemp has a role to play.
Yeah, no. So Rashid, over to you. Obviously, we developed the Bastry Cast hemp collection. I guess all of our friends here have been developing amazing hemp collections. Even CBL did one with Miles Johnson. But the one that we did, I know your customers in particular, Levi's, for instance, loads of people have been jumping on hemp, right?
Yes, that's correct, Mohsin. And to answer your question, you said Pakistani government has allowed hemp in Pakistan. I think that's a very good move, and it's definitely going to give a lot of advantage to the mills in Pakistan. But is that a shift away from cotton? I don't think so. I still feel that cotton is one fiber which is the most friendliest fiber when it comes to blending, and it will still be there. Yes, we will see a lot of new blends of hemp. So that's what we feel at Novena, that hemp is the new fiber, but cotton is definitely not replacing cotton.
Yeah, and so Ali as well. Obviously, hemp is relatively new, right? Obviously, we're at the beginning area. This is like cotton back in the 1920s. There's so many more things we're learning and still learning about it. But on your perspective, is it a turning point, or do you think it's, what's your thoughts on the first question?
It's certainly a step in that direction. There's no doubt about that. But just like Rashid and Zaki just said, there are still some hurdles that we need to cross before we get there with the fiber. Where acceptability is a bit slow. Fabrics are a bit different, even at a consumer level. So it's I think we're still a while away. The costs also higher. But it is certainly a step in that direction, and we're excited about it getting more and more popular. So we look forward to it being there, but it's not there just yet.
I think every single designer and developer and business unit, every single person I speak to is so excited about hemp. But obviously, you know, there is lots of and cottonized hemp's been around since like the 80s. And like Rashid, you've even been to a cotton spinner in China to see that firsthand. But we know that, well, I know from talking with other designers that the main, not the main issue, the main concern really is actually about the like mechanical and chemical processes of how they like degum. Maybe we can actually ask Rashid here, because he's probably had some experience visiting like kingdom in like China on the whole on their like degumming process.
Yes, Mohsin, I think that's a very good question. Why? Because designers are talking about mechanically and chemically finished hemp. There are pros and cons in both. Both have advantages over each other. If I were to talk about the Chinese hemp and our partners in China, our kingdom, they're the only one who we know of are doing bleached cottonized hemp version. Number one. Number two, if you want to have an increased percentage of hemp in your fabrics, then it's definitely the Chinese hemp.
Yeah.
And talking about the European hemp, which is mechanically finished, the good thing about it is if somebody is looking for a real authentic character of hemps, then we are talking about the European hemp, especially the French hemp that we have used in our blends. You see it comes in the original color. So that's why you see a different dye pickability. So it's got, but the limitations are you cannot go beyond 25% with a cotton blend. So again, there are advantages and disadvantages. So we have tried both. So it all depends on what you're looking for.
Sure, and like sort of like Zaki, I know like CBL have acquired land to invest in doing a vertical like sort of operation. So what kind of, can you tell us what you're going to be looking into, mechanical or chemical or a mixture of both? Are you
I think
still very
being
early
responsible and sustainability being really high on CBL's agenda, especially since we did start off on a greenfield vertical project. I think mechanical would be the way that we would proceed. I mean, there is a lot of intervention in terms of different chemicals that are now being delisted. So our objective would be to remain as simple as possible. The land acquisition, obviously, there would be that's still as you may know. I mean, there are still some more lobbying to do, especially on our part towards industrial growth of hemp in Pakistan. And then there is the whole pricing concern related to that. I think at this stage, even if as Rashid has already mentioned, that they are in the process of supplying certain customers. At this stage, even if we can probably just incorporate a small percentage of hemp, that would be ideal. And the more adoption we see in that area, I think the faster we could move.
I think it's very interesting that the Pakistani government has like legalized it, and obviously the moment they legalized it, then we know all of a sudden all the denim companies in Pakistan and the region are going to be going into hemp a lot more. Ali, obviously, you know, hemp's been around for more than for a very, very long time, like 6,000, 8,000 years or so. But for the last 100 years or so, it's been commercially illegal to grow it. And I know it's kind of a space race now of like new technologies. What kind of things is your company going to try and implement to try and use more hemp, or what kind of machinery are you looking into to actually do that?
So at the moment, we're mainly procuring our hemp. So we haven't really done much in growing our own hemp. The regulation change is still fairly recent, and there's still a lot of kinks to work out in terms of what we can do to be vertical in that space. So we're still buying our hemp. To sort of answer that mechanical versus chemical point, the mechanical process will always result in a coarser and more, let's say, authentic fabric. The advantage we have with the chemical side is that it's obviously as close to cotton as it can be. So it's a bit more acceptable at the consumer level, and I think it's important for it to be to be more acceptable at a wider scale. But then there's always the challenges of what chemicals are being used, how much water is being used. We don't want to take it to a level where it becomes worse than cotton in that regard. So it's important to make sure that the chemistry is correct. So there's still a lot of work to do with it because it's still in its infancy stages.
Absolutely right, and obviously, that leads us on to the next question about certifications. And so many designers, so many companies are greenwashing now, coming up. This has been certified, this or that or this, and and I know for a fact, it's really hard to get a certification on hemp because it's such a new fiber that we've only been able to use in the last 5-6 years. Obviously, our American friends, they've been using it a bit more longer than us. Our Chinese friends have been using it even longer, but as there's so much greenwashing, what should we be closely monitoring? I go to sort of Rashid here.
Well, Mohsin, talking about certifications on hemp, I know our supplier from China, Kingdom Mills, they are now giving us GOT certified hemp fiber. So that adds a lot of value and answers a lot of questions. So, and we are very happy with it. And there are growing concern from our customers, especially for the European buyers. Now they're looking more for the mechanical hemp from France. But this answers a lot of questions. And now coming back to what we really want, if we want to achieve cotton lookalike fabrics, then of course we have to go with the Chinese option. But if we are talking about more authentic denims, more imperfections, just you mentioned earlier about the naps, then of course French hemp is the way to go. So there are no good or bad things, but both of them have advantage, in their own ways.
Okay, that's thank you for that answer. Let's just go through. I think Rashid covered that quite well about our certifications. But I know, Zaki, even sort of you and I have been privately talking, and obviously the whole certifications thing, it's so many customers are asking for different certifications, but is GOTS enough? Is it more about a fiber trace method where we can literally trace it back to where it came from? Is it this kind of technology we have to do?
With pretty much everything, there is that element of traceability, and basically the technologies such as fiber trace or Helexia, they allow you to pinpoint the origin, and not only that, they actually give you the capability, especially at the consumer end, to be able to digitally ensure or get a digital authentication, a digital signature. This is where the crop has been grown. This is where it's been processed. So I think that may be the best solution. In terms of certifications, yes, customers have been looking for that, and since we're not growing that in Pakistan at the moment, I mean the availability is through the supply chain that's coming out of China. So it is similar to what Rashid has mentioned, which is the GOTS and in some cases GRS. So I think, yes, that element that you do mention could be something that we need to also look into, especially when it comes to blockchain transparency.
Absolutely right. Okay, going on to our second to last question. Hemp's a miracle plant. In fact, you've got 10,000 or 50,000 uses. Like they say that every aspect of the plant can be used, which is really exciting. It benefits the soil. It vacuums up toxins, chemicals, even heavy metals. 1 acre of hemp produces like 25 acres. 1 acre of hemp is actually like sort of like equivalent to like 25 acres of a forest regarding like oxygen, which is quite amazing. What sort of things excite each of you about hemp? I'll start with Ali first.
There's no doubt that hemp's a miracle fiber. It's just so good for the environment. You can grow it anywhere. There's just big advantages. What excites us most about it is that over time, I do feel that as the processes advance more and more, that it can truly become a sustainable, I'm using a big word, but sustainable replacement to cotton. I think it is a big breakthrough in our quest of finding a more sustainable alternative to cotton, but we still have time to go. I think there's still a lot more research required. I think there's still a lot more work required in the processes we use to ensure that they're more sustainable, that they're organic, that they're traceable. so that everything's transparent in that regard. But certainly the future is certainly exciting.
Yeah, no, it's certainly the denims that I've been producing, even with NGL and some other mills. It's very, very exciting, especially from a historical point of view, and everything else is quite amazing. Sort of Rashid, what excites you about hemp going forward? Obviously, you're one of the earliest mills to adopt it first, but what excites you personally about hemp?
Mohsin, I'll just share my recent experience of doing bass recast, and we learned a lot of things. And the most exciting part about hemp is to be able to blend it not only with the cotton, but the regenerated fiber lyocell and some of the sustainable fibers. So in that respect, you can achieve a lot. And I still feel there's a long way to go. It's just a matter of, going out and really doing the experiments, which is not easy. And you have to have the right approach in terms of what you want to achieve at the garment stage. So talking about the bass recast, one of the most sustainable wardrobe in my experience that we have done together has brought a lot of value to our vintage denim. Some of the fabrics we did was even uncinched. That was a real experience, So that's the most exciting part, which we have not experienced in the past with different man-made fibers. So we're really, really excited about, using more and more hemp in our collection.
Yeah, I think it's really exciting using like 2x1s and duck canvases and other types of weaves that, the original Levi's garment that sort of like Levi Strauss and Jacob Davis had in their patent drawing was actually a duck canvas. So it wasn't like 3x1 at all. So it's very interesting looking at the past for inspiration for the future. Zaki, what sort of things excite CBL and yourself like regarding hemp currently?
I think what excites me most, Mohsin, is I took a trip up north late last year, and I just saw so much wild cannabis sativa plants growing. I mean, it was just amazing this country is so conducive. I mean, there are other uses for this plant. You and I know that, but the main fact is Pakistan itself geographically is very well suited. I mean, so possibilities of rain-fed hemp are very high, provided, we can ensure a supply chain, a seed supply chain, and then, a farming supply chain. So I think this is the perfect environment to grow hemp. And that excites me because, naturally rain-fed hemp means less water and less irrigation requirements, and you can better put them to more agricultural use, more food crops.
Yeah. The final question, I think 2 minutes left. What are the main hindrances at the moment? Obviously, Ali mentioned about the price. Obviously, all of you have been you've been using hemp from all of your main collections. What is price the main hindrance, or is it the like machinery? Speaking to is it the spinning part of it, which we're still looking into getting it more refined? Start with Ali first.
It's actually both of them. So I think the root cause for price is actually availability. As we get more and more availability, as the technology advances more and more, as brands start demanding it more and accepting it more, the price will drop. But today, price is definitely a big hindrance. The other point in terms of the spinnability is also a challenge today. We're still researching it, we're still playing with it, and I think we're not quite there in figuring out exactly what the best blend to use it in what the best fabrics to use it in are. So I think for me that those are the biggest challenges today.
Rashid, what are the main hindrances or like challenges for you?
Well, price, of course, is one of the hindrances, but then there's so many ways you can construct your fabric and add hemp to your fabrics. And I feel that today's generation Z is much more aware of what they want to buy. They're looking for more transparency. They really want to know what kind of sustainable elements have gone into their pair of jeans. So therefore, they're ready to spend their money wisely. I see there is a challenge, but then again, they're ready to invest in this direction. That's what I feel. So yes, that definitely, I see hemp coming in very strongly, and just about every brand today is looking for a hemp capsule collection in their.
They are indeed. I'll just touch on Zaki quickly. We've got over 27 questions. We're never going to answer them all. Obviously,
well, I think you're the biggest hemp ambassador out there that I know, Mohsin. And
I think
you're a big fan of hemp. And you're the first one who basically, shine the light on hemp for me. I mean, I had no idea that we could incorporate in denim. I think price is a factor, and there is a lot more research, especially on the agricultural side, that needs to be done. What kind of plants, what THC levels we're going to have. I mean, there is a lot more work that needs to be done. So in the meantime, I mean, we are as suppliers in denim incorporating elements. And however, I think the solution is to have a supply chain that exists within Pakistan and is able to feed into the required fiber requirements.
Guys, we've time's up. I've got a text message saying time's up. We've got such great questions. If you could be so kind and maybe go into the Q&A, maybe help some of the students and answer some of those. This has been a great discussion. It should have been 40 minutes to an hour, but we did it in about 20. Thank you, Rashid. Thank you everyone for like joining. And yeah, and the next panel is awesome. It's going to be like Miguel. So it's like sort of a like goodbye at the moment from me and sort of like Miguel and the chemical panel next. So thanks.
Thank you, Mohsin. It's been a pleasure to be part of Transformers. Thank you for inviting Navina.